All right, Atif, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Excited that this has been an incredible event here so far.
It's so nice. The attendance is fantastic.
Yeah. So, what recent developments make AI native trading in that workspace unavoidable?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the trader market, you're seeing more than just a magnificent seven being traded now. You see a lot of long ticker symbols. You see a lot of different types of crypto. And then the second thing is historically you could get away with looking at your Bloomberg terminal or reading a Morgan Stanley report, but now it's if Citrini drops a report about the Strait of Hormuz or there's this anon on Twitter, information is moving the market on all of these tickers in such a fashion that it's really hard to stay on top of it if you're a trader. And if you don't have some sort of an agentic workflow and somebody comes up with some sort of a tweet that moves the market, like for example, something could come out while we're talking right now and we get back to our phone and something's drastically different. And so AI now, especially as the cost goes down, just enables people to stay on top of these things and trade all of these different types of tickers. And that's what we're seeing across the spectrum.
Wild. And does Button mainly sharpen the experience of traders, do you think? Or is it training like beginners to kind of become proficient as well?
Yeah, so we're going after what we call sophisticated trader market, which is growing significantly, and the reason for that is you want to hyper focus on a specific type of user group and really build towards that. And we think that if we build for that sophisticated trader group, they're going to help us build the use cases to help some of those early on traders come into the market. And so we want to be hyper focused on that. We see a lot of competitors that are going after a broader market, but we would really want to perfect this one audience and then expand from there because we believe that those sophisticated traders are going to build the use cases for how you bring on some of these earlier traders into the market.
Right. And with some of these sophisticated traders, and I guess any traders at all across the whole ecosystem here, like Hyperliquid is transparent, right? And so what lessons have you guys kind of learned or can you draw from that with these open market structures is really what it is versus like a closed exchange and what they're doing?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that transparency, right? That allows for things like price discovery, which is really working well. And I think it's really important. And you don't see that in traditional finance. I think the second thing is that it's really expensive to get data in traditional finance. Like we're going through this problem. We think it's a really important piece of the equation to give people that real-time information. But if you look at it on a user basis, which it goes down to, it's super expensive. And you shouldn't have to be rich to be able to get the information you need to trade. And I think that is a really important lesson from Hyperliquid is the transparency and the cost is really important.
Great. And then with your knowledge graph, that's kind of like this deepest part of Button is kind of what I'm understanding. So how do you seeing that traders' worldview without like hitting their blind spots?
Yeah. So I think first of all, context is really important when we think about trading and especially using LLMs. And a lot of the LLMs miss that context, right? So what influences you might be drastically different than what influences me. It might be a Citrini report for me. It might be an Anon or a TikTok influencer. And so being able to bring that knowledge or context into personalizing, the information that we give out to traders is really, really important. With AI, you should be able to ingest that knowledge, and AI should be able to help validate or invalidate some of those things and get rid of some of those blind spots. And so we think that not only the real-time data, but also the ability to bring in the things that influence you is really important. I'll give you an example of something Button does today. I have it scan my last 100 posts on Twitter, and it looks at all the things that because I only have two things on my Twitter feed, trading and sports. And so it looks at the last 100 posts. It goes based on the things that it influences me based on the types of trades I make, gives me a high, medium, and low conviction thing that I should look at every single day, and then I can drill into it. And so we think that context, that knowledge should help validate or invalidate, especially as the cost of intelligence goes down.
Got it. And what about in your sense here, you're saying this is for your feed and what you're looking at, but what about like, you mentioned like the TikTok side of things, like what about just overall sentiment around that? How do you tap into that as well?
So that's actually some of the things that we're working on, our engineers are working on, is the ability to ingest customized sources of data like a TikTok influencer or a set of reports. We have a quant on staff that ran a $2 billion hedge fund, and this is like his dream come true. And so he's figuring out ways to be able to ingest a lot of these reports and a lot of these influences outside of just that, right? Because reports aren't influencing people. It's really like people on Twitter or random reporters. And so the ability to bring that knowledge into what you get out of it in that context is going to be really important, and that's what we're working towards.
Yeah, and it's not just, I guess, like social people, but we're also getting the, the leaders of the free worlds, for example, that are making some comments, and suddenly the markets shift in a certain direction. So there's a whole sentiment around that. So it's really cool that you guys are tapping into this. What else is happening for you guys? What's next for Button?
Yeah, so we're going to be going live with our open beta at the end of the month. It's really interesting. There's a lot of people, especially if you look at the last YC cohort, building similar products. And it's really intoxicating to give people this promise that a magic black box is going to make people money. But when you look at LLMs today, when you talk to a great engineer, they're actually not just pushing code without reviewing it. And so, eventually you'll be able to execute on these types of things. But what we really want to focus on is making sure that the experience for these traders is great, and it helps give them the right information to be better at what they're doing. But we don't think in the interim that you're just going to have a magic black box that makes people money. And we think that that's the type of stuff that is moving people in the wrong direction. Because again, if you talk to a great engineer, they're not pushing code to production without reviewing it. Why would you allow an LLM to make a trade for you if it's not actually going to work? And I think you see that a lot. People really get excited about the terminals they're building for trading, but nobody ever talks about the fact that they're mostly losing money. And so we think over time, as we build the right evals, we'll get to that point. But in the interim, how can we give people a personalized experience to be a better trader? And that's what we're focused on.
Got it. Well, terrific stuff. Thank you so much for giving us a little more insight into what you're up to. And Hyperliquid.
Hyperliquid. Thank you, sir.